Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Null. Once again, here to share more information on how to live a longer and healthier life. A lot of things can be prevented, but only if we're aware that what we're doing is itself unhealthy. Long time ago, my mother made a statement, and it was one of those statements that just stuck with me my whole life, and it really has helped me. She said that most people are very determined to get something accomplished, and they put their mind to it, and then they focus like a laser and they go after it. But what if they make mistakes in judgment? They won't know that they've made mistakes till they reach their destination. And she said, I remember this, that we only know how right or wrong our choices are when we get to our destination, which means we can lose years, even sometimes an entire life, by thinking we're doing the right thing when we're not. And she says that that's why I want you to think before you do something. And then keep asking yourself, what is the likely outcome of the choice that I'm making? And that stuck with me. It stuck with me to this day, because I always ask, how should I deal with a crisis, a problem? How should I deal with someone who comes into my practice and says, Gary, I've got no time. No time. Doctor said they can't help me, go home, put my life in order, go into hospice care. And how you approach that person can make the difference of how either they no longer feel that there's anything that can be done, or maybe they say, yeah, let's go for a Hail Mary, throw that ball and see if I can get it in the end zone. And so you think about what is the power of a word, eye contact, holding a hand. When I used to have the Tri-State Healing Center, and we had thousands and thousands of patients, 1,200 patients alone who had full-blown AIDS, cancer patients, heart disease patients, all ages. I would always not wear any protective garb. I just wear regular clothes, casual clothes, go in and sit with them, pull up a little chair and hold both hands, look them in the eye, probably 2 feet apart. And none of the other medical staff would do that. There was 22 on the medical staff. These are board-certified physicians and nurse practitioners, and they all thought that AIDS was spreadable. It was in the air. Someone breathed it out. And I said, that's nonsense. And so, but just holding someone's hands and looking in the eye and say, we're not going to let you die. You're not going to let yourself die. There's a way forward. Suddenly you would see the whole body just kind of relax, the tightness and the tension that they were holding on. What if we said, well, your doctor said there was nothing that could be done, and that doctor's right. You don't want to do that. You don't want to give someone a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, because then real quick, that nocebo effect happens and the body starts to shut down. You want the body to open up. You want the mind to open up. You want your chi, your heart energy, your life force to open up and to express itself. And that's why never act your age. Because if you're acting your age, and if you're over the age of 30, you're going to be acting in a very limited and restricted manner, as others expect you. So when we look at our life and we look at the choices we make, how many of those choices make sense? How many of those choices help us? How many of those enlighten us, inform us, free us, heal us? Versus how many choices disease us, limit us, creating fear, insecurity, uncertainty. So what we need to do is we need to take a lesson from Massachusetts General Hospital, because they say that maintaining a healthy lifestyle may prevent up to 60% of inflammatory bowel disease. Here we're talking about Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And this was a large international study published in the peer-reviewed journal Gut. And there's been previous studies, showing that that inflammation can cause this. Well, this was the nurses' health study, and the nurses, or the health professionals study, physicians and nurses over decades. Everything about their life was looked at, and they found that inflammation, specifically with irritable bowel conditions, are caused by an unhealthy diet. Why? Because an unhealthy lifestyle, including an unhealthy diet, including using non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and physical inactivity, and a lack of fruits and vegetables and fibers in the diet, and polyunsaturated fatty acids, and too much meat, all this leads a person to have inflammation. And the more inflammation you have, the more disease is going to be created. Well, let's just see some of the diseases that come from inflammation. How about cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, depression, dementia, Parkinson's, arthritis? All of these can be directly related to the quality of our lifestyle. So let's go back to what my mother said. What if we didn't, on Sunday while watching a ball game, what if we didn't accept that that commercial was important, but instead say, nope, I don't need to eat that food with all that meat and French fries and pizzas and beer and alcohol. I don't need that. That would not give me what I need. That does not make me a happier, healthier person. In fact, just the contrary, it makes me sick. Therefore, I'm going to choose to say no, even if everyone else I know says yes. It's very important now to question everything, be responsible, do your homework. And therefore, as the pain in your gut is no longer present, you can heal the gut, you can have a healthier intestine and digestion, and you don't have to worry about drinking coffee and getting GERD, and suddenly you have esophageal inflammation and cancer because you're not drinking coffee. You're drinking an herbal tea or a glass of fresh juice. So all of our choices matter. So I'm asking you, think before you do something. What is the likely outcome? Will it help or hurt you or the earth or the planet? From Loyola University in Chicago comes a study about vitamin D. Now they found that it decreases pain in women with type 2 diabetes and depression. Well, between those two, you're dealing with tens of millions of women. So this can help them. So vitamin D decreases pain in women with type 2 diabetes and depression, according to a study done there. And they're looking at the weekly consumption of about 50,000 units, around 8,000 units of vitamin D per day for 6 months if you have diabetes or depression. And here's this. Depression significantly improved following vitamin D3 supplementation. 61% of patients reported shooting or burning pain in their legs and feet, which is neuropathic pain, and 74% reported numbness and tingling in their hands, fingers, and legs, which is called sensory pain. That was at the beginning of the study. But at the end of the study, at the end of 6 months, researchers found a significant decrease in the neuropathic and sensory pain at 3 and 6 months following of the vitamin D supplementation. So that's good news. From Washington State University comes a study. Twin study links exercise to beneficial epigenetic changes. So what this means is simple. Consistent exercise can change not just your waistline or the pot belly, but the very molecules in the human body that influence how genes behave. A new study from Washington State University, published in the Journal of Scientific Reports, found that the more physical active siblings in identical twin pairs had lower signs of metabolic disease measured by waist size and body mass index, the amount of body fat. This also correlated with differences in their epigenomes, the molecular process that are around DNA and independent of DNA sequence, but influence gene expression. So everything you do in life, everything you hear, everything that you think, everything that you go out and experience influences to some degree or another how a gene expresses itself. The more active you are, the epigenetic marks linked to lower metabolic syndrome, meaning less diabetes, less heart disease, less stroke. That's all important. So just think of how often we wake up in the morning and feel good. One of the ways you can feel good is by adopting a kitten or a little dog, for example. They're wonderful to look at. You laugh, you feel good, you smile, just watching all their antics. Now they play and are mischief and chew everything. And they're just filled with love and joy. It's a smile on our face. And this is part of life, smiling, laughing, going to comedy clubs, and joining with other people, the idea that we all are kind of funny in different ways. So let's laugh at our differences instead of being offended by everything. And there are those in our society, unfortunately, but they're not the majority, who wake up finding no reason to feel good about themselves, and certainly no reason to feel good about the country they live in, the people they're surrounded by. They're just angry and moody all the time. Well, here's the bad part of that. On a recent program, I said, whatever choice you make in life, you'll win something. The trouble is, when you won't pay attention to your diet, you win a disease. You win, and you're defiant. I'm going to do what I want to do. It's my life, my body, my choice. You're right. So you win. Your heart attack, your stroke, your cancer, that's your victory. And also think about what it means to be around people that are always judgmental, always arguing, always sarcastic and belittling others, who need to find an excuse to make others feel bad about themselves by weaponizing their words. Do you think those people are going to live the same long, happy life? No, there's no happiness. Happiness is the foundation of good health. Happiness, which is not something you buy or possess out there. No, happiness comes from the poorest amongst us or the richest. It's your attitude about what you have to live for, knowing who you are, and knowing how, even in a toxic environment, you can stay non-toxic. In a negative environment, you can stay positive because you're not allowing others to influence how you feel about yourself. So just saying that that's all epigenetic. The environment you grow up in no small measure, will be the environment that you create in life. So now you're 25, you're 30, and you're insecure, but you don't see it. You just know that you'll take no chances. You'll take no risks. You're playing it safe. You have to have guarantees of certainty, security, before you make any move in life. But you're working in a very toxic environment around toxic people, and it's bad for your health. I know, but unless I have something else that can pay the rent, and suddenly you begin to make excuses that that's the only job in the world that exists. And if you give that up, you're going to be homeless. We don't look at all the power we have to make positive choices when we're free of insecurity. There are no guarantees. There's no guarantee that that job is going to make you happy. You're happy and then find that job. What you do with it is up to you. But that's all called epigenetics, meaning everything in the environment around us influences us, influences our DNA. So, one more reason to be around healthy, positive people, to be around people who contribute something to this wonderful world we live in, and who can smile, laugh at themselves and others, and who are forgiving and not hypersensitive, and realize that the path in life, with all of its different transitions, it frequently is rough. Frequently really shows that we have to get back up again. Stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Stop thinking we're just a victim for life. I know people personally that I can't be around because within that conversation, whether it's 2 minutes or 2 hours, it all becomes about them and how they're victim and how the world doesn't appreciate how unique they are and they just can't get out of that. As a result, they frequently can't find work, and they can't find people to be around. They're overjudging everything because they're afraid of their own insufficiencies and limitations. So what you don't like about yourself, you project upon other people. It's not good, but it's very common. Instead of looking for the best in all situations and being appreciative of the gifts of life that you do have, and we all have different gifts. And that also is in our DNA, and that's why it's fun to be around certain people. I'm sure you all have friends or family or relationships where it's just you can't wait to be around someone because they're just joyful to be around. They're fun. They're easy. There's no intensity of being. Think about that, because it will explain why we're more vulnerable to diseases when we're wound too tight. In fact, talking about tight, the Polish Academy of Sciences just came out with a study that social stress messes up the hippocampus in our brain. So how do you feel when you're stuck in traffic for hours, or when you're late for a flight, or when you're waiting at the university hall to pass an exam? Obviously, you feel stressed, which might endanger your hippocampus, according to research published in the peer-reviewed journal PLOS One. What they did is they evaluated the impact of acute and chronic stress in the hippocampal transcriptome, that's a set of transcribed genes, using a behavioral protocol of social stress. This paradigm relies upon the ability to induce stress-like responses based upon social aggression in order to induce the antagonist behaviors characteristic of stressful social situations. They're able to do that, and then they measure what happens. And what happens is when people are in chronic stress, their whole behavior changes. And that's because their brain is also adversely affected, the hippocampal part of the brain. Why is this important? Because what is a different way of approaching stress, no matter what the stress? Meditation. When I go to the airport, which is frequent, and there's bad weather, I don't know, because your cell phone or your computer will tell you your flight's on time. That's not always accurate. And then when you get there, it could be canceled. Do you wait for another flight, which may be half a day or all day, and cancel altogether, or not, or you go back home? So what I do is I always do a simple meditation that whatever it is, it's okay. As a result, no elevation in blood pressure, no elevation in cortisol, no irregularities in biochemistry, because you've accepted that there are things in life you cannot control, and therefore don't get upset about them. If I'm in traffic and someone is, beeping on the horn, let them go around me. I'm not going to get angry or uptight or suddenly have that fight or flight response. No, because that person doesn't want to travel at the speed limit. They want to go faster, for whatever the reason. And I'm not going to get upset about it. If I'm late for something, I'm late for it. All I do is say, sorry, I'm late. That's it. Let it go. I don't stress about it. So we've got to understand that we can let go of stress and just let life be what it is. And most people are okay with that. So you don't want your brain adversely affected because of your stress. And it will affect your brain, and it'll cause inflammation. That inflammation can cause inflammation in the tissues, which then can cause everything from microstrokes to amyloid plaque being laid down in the brain. Also, researchers reveal why fat increases after dieting and how protein might help. This is from Shanghai Institute of Nutrition and Health. This was published in the peer-reviewed journal Nature Metabolism. And what they found and this was also sponsored by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, it reveals an increase in the lactobacillus, which is a probiotic, and its metabolites after dieting enhanced intestinal lipid absorption and led to quick fat accumulation and obesity. And it also showed in the laboratory, and it showed that this effect can be prevented by a high protein diet. So what you need is you need to shift out of all the fat that you're consuming, except healthy fats, and start relying upon more plant-based protein. That can make a big difference in everyone. And after all, we're the most overweight nation in the world for population. That's saying something, because both China and India now are 1.4 billion people, and yet we, per population, have more obesity in this country. And finally, from the University of Illinois, krill, that's K-R-I-L-L, oil, it's a fish. Can it protect the brain from age-related degeneration? Well, researchers investigated the effects of krill oil on age-related neurodegeneration and Parkinson's disease. They found that krill oil can, yes, indeed, protect against many neurodegenerative processes in the human cell lines. That's good news, because krill oil has been used for arthritis and other conditions throughout history, and there's good science on krill oil. Just most people use cod liver oil or the omega-3 fatty acids. But they also found a lot more. They found that, well, just to give you an idea, when you're looking at your diet, understand that everything you take in will impact your brain to some degree, and you want it to be impacted in a positive way. You don't want your neurons destroyed. Alcohol does that. Tetracyclic amines can do that from fried food. You want to control the protein in your diet, and a plant-based protein is healthy on all levels, whereas meat-based or animal-based protein is not. You're getting a lot of arachidonic acid. You need choline, C-H-O-L-I-N-E. It's a precursor to the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, and is thus crucial for multiple neurological functions, such as regulating your memory, your mood, your muscle control. And also in the plants, you're also getting antioxidants. You're not getting that in the meat, like astaxanthin, A-S-T-A-X-A-N-T-H-I-N. And it makes, well, let's say, it's crucial when you take that along with krill oil. Why? It has anti-cancer activity, anti-diabetic activity, neuroprotective activity, promoting cardiovascular health, promoting ocular health, your eyes, promoting skin health, all that. Yeah, that helps you de-age. That's the latest on health and healing. Let me remind you that the Progressive Radio Network is the #1 progressive voices as far as a radio network in America. And the finest voices from Ralph Nader. Yes, we have Jimmy Dore. We have the people who are not afraid to tell the truth. And they're not there to promote a political ideology. They're there to open doors you may not know are there. So take a look. Look at all the hosts. And 24/7, we're there to help you and take on the big challenges, because virtually every host is also an activist and have been fighting in the trenches for decades for your freedom of choice and to protect you from the crimes and misdemeanors by corporate America and governmental agencies. So also within that, go to GaryNull.com and download the app that allows you, or the connection that allows you to get the Gary Null newsletter, which is sent to you on your computer every morning with all the information and citations in case you need to refer to something, and build your own health library. Just print it out. Therefore, you have a health file. Let's say you have heart disease or cancer or arthritis. In a period of a month, you've got dozens of articles you can now use as citations. Yesterday, for example, I gave you an idea of a big study, largest study ever done, showing you the foods that directly impact and protect your heart. And the those that we might think do, but actually don't. They do other things in the body, but your heart specifically. There were like 20 different items on that list. Now, you can't remember all that, but if you printed it out, save it, you have it. You can then do further research. In any case, get the Gary Null newsletter. It's free, and it's there for you. And then look at all the other hosts. Abby Martin, bringing great shows. Dr. Klein, Naomi Klein. We have a lot of interesting people. Back in a moment to continue our program. Please stay with us.
Are you tired of closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.